Hello, my name is Dr. Rebekah McKendry, and I am here doing the commentary track for Gretel and Hansel from 2020, directed by Oz Perkins. I'm really excited to be doing the commentary track for this because this movie hits two of my favorite subgenres. The first one being coming-of-age films, and the second one being fairy tale horror. And this one does it absolutely beautiful. So let's go ahead and jump in here. Oh, and we get the old school Orion logo. This takes me back to my teen years.
Come, children, and listen, for the story I tell holds a lesson that might one day keep you safe. So gather in close and hear me well.
So, for those of you who don't know the history of the actual Hansel and Gretel mythos, I assume that, of course, all of us are familiar with different variations of Hansel and Gretel. The story has actually been around since it was first recorded by the Brothers Grimm in 1812. But the story itself is likely much, much older than that. There have been different versions of it going all the way back, like hundreds of years before the 1812 Brothers Grimm edition first came out. And it always kind of hits these same notes of abandoned kids who then happen upon a house of cake. In some version, it's bread, and that then they start feasting on the house, and then the witch comes out and she locks Gretel up as a servant and starts fattening Hansel up, giving him all of this great food to eat with the intention of eventually eating him. Gretel eventually pushes her into the oven, and then the kids take her treasure or take over the house. When we're looking at all these different stories, there's always something different going on with the parents in these stories. Sometimes the kids have been abandoned, sometimes both their parents are dead. In a lot of the stories, the kids have been left with an abusive stepmom, which really goes into that stepmom motif that we see in a lot of old fairy tales. And in a lot of different variations, when they go into the woods, they're leaving this trail. And that's where we kind of get our traditional trail of breadcrumbs. In some versions, it's pebbles. In some versions, it's breadcrumbs that'll get eaten by birds. And in other versions, it's peas. This film actually sticks pretty closely to the Brothers Grimm version. It sticks really closely to the original. The one that I am most familiar with growing up, when I was a kid of the late 80s, early 90s, and Shelley Duvall used to have this whole line of this fairy tale theater that she did that I remember watching on VHS. And there was one starring Ricky Schroeder as Hansel, and Joan Collins played the witch, and also their stepmother. And that is the one that I remember the most from my childhood. But this one is such a cool variation of it. So here we get this absolutely horrific imagery of what the beautiful child is capable of. Another fairy tale motif of the most beautiful thing is often the most dangerous.
To play with.
These beautiful woods here with these extra tall trees. Most of this film was shot in Ireland. Oh, such a bleak ending with these kids coming into it, and we realize that she is already kind of luring them in.
Beware of those that offer them, and beware of those who are only too happy to take them.
For those of you who aren't familiar with who I am, while we're getting some opening credits here, again, my name is Rebekah McKendry. I have worked at Fangoria for decades now. I'm a horror journalist, I'm a screenwriter, and I've also hosted a number of podcasts. My current one is Colors of the Dark on Fangoria. So moving right in with Gretel. So in the traditional stories, Gretel and Hansel are usually around the same age. They're usually both about 10 or 12. This one I love because it really did push much more into that coming of age. We get that Hansel is a little bit younger. He's maybe about 8. And then we get that Gretel is a little bit older. She's definitely kind of in her teen years, getting to be a woman. And so that becomes a strong theme throughout, that she is really taking care of her brother and that she is at this cusp of womanhood where Hansel doesn't even see her as that yet, but those around her do. So here we have Gretel being played by Sophia Lillis, who many of us horror fans know as Beverly Marsh from It.
I'm going to meet with John Strip and his wife, if he has one. Mother imagines he needs a housekeeper.
But why are your lips so strangely colored?
If I should ever see so much as a crumb of cake, you'll be the first to know. Okay.
Do you read?
No, though I am able to bake and launder.
Your father was a farmer, yes?
Was.
This is a really cool technique that Oz is doing here, where as he is shooting what is basically a conversation between two characters, he's going out of his way to keep them in their own world. So kind of the easiest way when you're shooting this is to do over. So you're shooting over one shoulder to frame the other one. But here, what he's doing to really kind of push that they are in their own worlds, that they do not in any way exist or belong together, keeping them centered, which feels awkward to look at, that they're staring straight down the barrel of the camera, but then never once do we see them in the same frame together. So we never can associate them together, and having them stare straight at us really is unnerving.
Yes, sir.
Oh, do something nice for a poor old man, won't you? Try saying "my lord" instead.
Yes, my lord.
That's a good girl. I think you'll find our guests will prefer it. Now I have something to ask you. Have you kept your maidenhood?
I beg your pardon.
You may beg all you want, but my question remains. Are you intact?
What if I had reached across and slapped him? Would my palm have stung with pride? Or would I have felt nothing?
Would it have killed you to smile at the man?
So beautiful mix of blue and red here on screen. These two, when put together, really create this wonderful opposition. We see it a lot in films like Suspiria. A lot of giallo films kind of play around with that. But it's used to kind of create this opposition and play havoc with the eyes. In this case, it's kind of mixing both a practical light, we've got the fire going in the background, with something that feels kind of unnatural. This neon blue coming in from outside really does feel unnatural. And then these hard shadows around the bowls just really make it feel even creepier.
I'm wide away here soon enough.
You shouldn't talk like that.
You'll take your brother and make haste to the convent. Throw yourself at the boots of the sisters and pray they take you in.
Hansel will never be offered admittance at a convent. And I would never ask to be admitted.
And the two of you could start work, digging your sweet little graves. Gretel. And you and your brother take up your shovels. Dig a hole for Mommy, too.
Okay, so in this version, it is OG Mom, but Mom's clearly become unhinged, so impoverished that she doesn't know what to do, that she's basically kind of writing everybody off for dead. Oh no, she's definitely unhinged. Here we go. Total loving home, but get the hell out of there.
Into tiny little pieces.
I pulled my brother from his bed, and together we fled the only home we'd ever known. The door slammed at our backs, and the big bad world opened up in front of us, like a terrible mouth.
You ought to have gone with the man in the house.
Quite about things you don't know.
Why'd you always do that?
I don't always do anything. I'm not a clock.
You made trouble. You would have had your own room. You would have seen a crumb of cake sooner or later.
Nothing is given without something else being taken away.
When can we go back to Mother?
Remember the widow Hayes who used to give Father eggs before her chickens got sick? She lives just up ahead. Perhaps she can give us a bed.
How do I see that far?
I don't have to see things to know that they're there.
Are you sure a woman lives here?
I'm sure a woman used to live here.
Oh, that beautiful haze in the background. Haze is so hard to maintain on a film set in general. It's a lot of wafting and running this really loud machine to try to get it consistent. But when you're outside, the machine that they use, it's this massive thing. It's huge and it's big and it's loud, and it takes forever to fill an area like an entire field or forest.
Do you think Mother's all right?
I think she's all right as long as we're all right.
Gretel, will we be all right?
And I would assume that it's quite intentional that in the background of these shots, in the shadows, you feel these upside down crosses on the walls throughout, hitting the shadows against the walls. Such a great reveal on that character.
Oh, but not really.
No idea if this is a traditional, just a creature or a guy or exactly what it is, but oof, brutal.
You've been turned out of your home, I'll wager. Set out to fend for yourselves with only your clothes and your hides, which aren't much.
I have an axe.
Oh. I must say it hides very well in your shadow, young man.
I mean, I have an axe at home.
Be quiet.
I'll be happy to direct you to foresters, good people, plentiful coin, food if you can earn it. They'll hand you a new axe and show you how to make it work like one. You, girl, will learn the ways of the herbs and the earth, lest the men of the world find a more obvious use for you.
Oz Perkins is such what I would call a minimalistic filmmaker, whereas when you would be covering a scene like this, you would be thinking multiple angles, multiple lenses that you're going to do, all these different places that you can shoot it from. He is just really minimalistic with how he covers a scene. We are seeing mostly single shots of our three characters and then one kind of wide. So to think about an entire conversational scene that you can cover in just 4 shots, it's real minimalistic, but I love how in this instant, it makes it feel almost like a storybook, like we're kind of turning pages as we see each character and transition between them. It does not feel like a traditional film where you would see multiple characters in the same shot and then you would still go over to see them talking to each other. Everybody is looking straight ahead. So what we get here is that this guy is on the level, seems really nice, but that this world that we exist in is totes oppressive. He was just talking about, that as a woman, she should be thinking about doing herbs and cleaning and cooking and things like that. So really that this exists in a very oppressive female world.
Keep west for 2 full days and nights. Keep to the path I've drawn for you, and you'll find what you're looking for. Stray from it and you can expect to meet wolves. And if you do, don't stop to talk to them. They're very charming and handsome, but make terrible conversation.
Beautiful fade into our super hazy forest. And it's a super bold choice to apply this kind of synthy score behind something that feels traditional. Like, it feels like you would definitely want a more kind of traditional composition score with this, but Oz chose to go full synth. He did, it's a mix, but there's a lot of synth within it. The score was composed by Robin Codert, who is also mostly known by his stage name Rob. And what I love that he did was 2012's Maniac, which is absolutely amazing. Also, his score for Run Sweetheart Run from 2020 is fantastic. So really bold choice for this one, but really does it a favor. I love the synth behind a lot of it.
Oh. Do you remember Father very much?
No, not very much.
Tell me the fairy tale again. The one about the beautiful child with the little pink...
Not right now. It's too scary, start seeing things that aren't there.
Oh, all this haze and those figures just cutting away to him. Again, it makes it feel like a fairy tale where you're just turning the pages of the book to see a different page. And in this instance, this center framing, and it's almost a fisheye effect that's happening with a lot of these lenses that they're using. And then the center framing, it really is making it feel kind of like a different reality, like they're out of touch with reality and that it is kind of existing in this nightmarish landscape. Oh, especially here, where the camera is kind of right in front of them, following them.
There's nothing and nobody out there.
For this, I always, whenever I'm looking at a fairy tale and kind of the fear of the woods, and you have to think that back in this time, the woods were basically the scariest place you could possibly go, especially at night, because the woods held all the creatures. It held all of the nightmares. It held all of the people who could possibly want to kill you, and you could see none of it. And so just thinking about how dark those woods would have been at night during that time period with no electrical lighting around, and then thinking that that's like where all of your fears, all of your potential trauma exists.
What in hell are you doing? Practicing for when we meet the foresters. And you said hell. Hey!
All this practice is making an unnecessary racket. I'm sorry. I'm hungry.
I'm hungrier than you are.
Because you're a pig.
You're a bigger pig.
Here I am.
Sweet brother-sister moment, which will give us a beautiful arc into where we are headed in the third act of this one. Oh, those trees. And gorgeous shot using those trees. And again, we get back to this particular lens and camera style that's really making us feel the wooziness, that's really letting us feel just how uncomfortable they are, how bad they feel. Oh, so we have happened upon one of my favorite types of mushrooms, the fly agaric mushrooms. So this is kind of the quintessential mushroom that you see in a lot of fairy tales, not even just fairy tales. This is like the quintessential mushroom in media across the board. It's what you see in Alice in Wonderland, to the point that she's about to talk to the mushroom and say that the mushroom says, "Eat me," which is a direct reference to Alice in Wonderland. This is the mushroom that you see in Super Mario Brothers, the red mushroom with the little white spots on top. It's even the type of mushroom that the Smurfs live in. This is what the quintessential mushroom looks like. But fun thing, as they are debating about whether or not to eat it, they'll actually make you trip balls. Supposedly, you can cook the toxins out of them, the mycotoxins. But traditionally, they were either eaten to cause hallucinations or kind of accidentally. Supposedly, the Santa Claus myth is even based on these mushrooms with the red and white, and people making wreaths out of them to give to each other. Also, apparently, reindeer like them. The reason that these ones were not used nearly as much as what we traditionally know as hallucinogenic mushrooms is because they have super unpredictable effects. Sometimes you'll trip a lot, sometimes you won't trip at all. Because of that, they were not traditionally used for that, but here we're going to get completely loopy off of them. Probably shouldn't say this on a commentary track, but these are not like any mushroom trip I've ever been on. I do think that the staring off into space part is pretty accurate. The laughing, not as much, but maybe depends on what you're taking. Then again, I've never had the fly agaric before. Okay, yeah, that staring off into space is pretty accurate. That witch's hat is totally giving me some Holy Mountain vibes. Well, they did seem to come down pretty well. Not as much vomiting as you sometimes have with a mushroom trip. So, yeah, keep it going.
Gretel, is that there?
If it isn't, neither are we.
Do you smell that? Gretel, it smells of cake.
So this was a bold choice for Oz to say that he is not going to construct the house out of cake, out of bread, out of cookies. Instead, he's just going to put the food inside. And at first I was like, that's a really bold choice, because that is kind of the quintessential thing of Hansel and Gretel, is we immediately think the house made out of cake. But if you think about it, that's kind of your first issue if you're trying to like maintain a reality of the world, is the house made of cake. If you're trying to convince kids that, you know, oh no, my house is totally on the level, the fact that your house is made out of cake kind of does that against that from the start. So keeping it as a semi-regular looking house, obviously this one's pretty trippy looking, but you know, just keeping the food inside maintains their disbelief for a much longer time than if they just walk up and start devouring your house.
Well, what is there?
Only heaven.
What? Gretel, look and see.
this is beautiful. Like, the witch doesn't have to leave to go get kids. They just kind of come to her because she has cake. Now, the design on this house is just absolutely beautiful. The house is actually a triangle shape, and you're going to see these triangle shapes pop up repeatedly throughout this movie. There is a huge triangle motif happening in just kind of the shape of things, in the way that the light is falling, in the shape of the house. And this is really important in a lot of different religions, but we see it a lot in pagan religion. Specifically in pagan religion, the triangle was meant to represent the three phases of womanhood: the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And that is ultimately what this film is about, is her journey from maidenhood into kind of a more advanced state, coming of age, versus the witch, who is going to represent the crone. And we even see this triangle motif continue from paganistic times. It continues into multiple other religions, but it journeys into Christianity as well, as they bring in kind of the Trinity of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Careful with that, dear. I'd hate for you to start something you can't stop.
You never intended to steal from me, missus.
Missus, think I'm married. See you a ball and chain at my heel. But tell me how you came to be in my woods. And so charmingly unchaperoned.
Our mother has come upon hardship.
Usually the first thing a mother comes upon.
My sister won't go to the convent.
Be quiet.
I very much doubt that a convent is the place for a girl with action in her bones. Even if there's hardly any meat on those action bones.
Aren't you expecting guests?
Guests? I'd rather have roaches. Just checking. To be sure you're not crawling with louses before you put your heads on any pillows of mine.
Ouch!
Oh, don't smell the hair. Don't smell the hair. Totally smelling the hair. Don't be creepy. Don't be creepy.
You're clean enough. Now, eat and rest. Beds have already been made up for you.
Thank you. But really, we'll stop briefly, but we must be on our way.
Milk. Good for bones.
Strudely pie things, that's definitely, you can't resist those. Go for it. I always think when I've seen this in other Gretel and Hansel stories, like, what would lure me into a house? What would lure us into a house now? Would it just be cake? Maybe flaming hot Cheetos for me, good medical insurance. I feel like it's going to change as I get older, but yeah, strudel would help.
Eyes too big for my stomach, obviously.
And your mouth is too big for your mouth, obviously.
Oh, see, this is just such beautiful minimalistic filmmaking. That entire scene was 2 shots, keeping it really simple. Here we get that beautiful triangle motif, going to more of the triangle motif here with the pillows. You know, the majority of this film has had very level filmmaking. The camera has always been level with the characters framed in the center. That was one of our very first canted shots that we have had, where the horizon line was messed up, so we can tell that we're entering into this nightmare sequence. So that rhyme is actually from a completely different Grimm's fairy tale, a real fucked up one, for lack of a better way of putting it. This one called The Juniper Tree, about a mother who kills her son and then blames it on her daughter and then feeds the corpse to her husband. And the daughter picks up the bones and buries them under a juniper tree. And then this bird, who is the son's soul, keeps showing up talking about, oh, what a pretty bird am I. My mother ate me, or my father ate me. My mother killed me. Oh, what a pretty bird am I. So that was really cool to include that rhyme in that. It's definitely one of the lesser known Grimm stories.
She can keep all those vegetables while I eat only meat and grow strong like an ox.
She'll grow strong enough, just as the ox with his vegetable-made bones pulls the cart, and the fat man who sits atop it. Well, another one bites the dust.
May I not help you with that?
What's this, dear?
Only to say, surely in exchange for your generosity, I might offer to be the one out of the two of us to get down on the ground.
No, that's a new idea.
I can bake and launder, turn down beds, or attend to any animals that might need tending.
And I can chop wood.
He can learn.
Well, I could.
Typically, I'm not in the habit of employing children, but in this case, it does seem a fair trade.
Only until we set off again to find it.
This was really smart to bury the lead, because as soon as the kids get hip to what's going on, if this had gone with the original fairy tale where Hansel immediately gets locked up and fed stuff while Gretel becomes the servant, also locked up, then the movie just becomes about how they're going to break out. That becomes the focus, is how they're going to escape. But because of this, they maintain belief that this is actually a good place for them for a while. So we can slow roll discovering how creepy it is. And along the way, get this beautiful practical lighting.
Lies and vinegars on that shelf. Soap from animal fat just there. And the blade high like this, then lay it down easily. Very good. Once you've gotten a hang of it, you can move on to the others in the shed.
Something creepy about the shed.
My, aren't you handsome?
Everything in this is so hazy. It just feels like it exists in a dreamlike state permanently.
Nothing to sneeze at. Even with the heat of your blushing, you've the onset of the chill. Here, let me show you something. Licorice.
The production design on this book is just exquisite. It's so beautiful.
Cat's claw.
Plus, this house is deceptively large on the inside. It feels like we're consistently in new rooms and with hallways and everything. So it's like a TARDIS house.
Tomorrow you will be a new girl. If not tomorrow, then soon enough. In any case, you will have taken a first step. The foul smell is only an ugly gatekeeper in front of the Palace of Wonders. Stop with him at the gate, or see what goes
And this is one of my favorite elements about this movie, that this is not the traditional Hansel and Gretel, where Gretel just becomes a servant to the witch while Hansel gets fattened up. In this, Gretel is given agency, and so is the witch. Gretel is provided with this secret knowledge. Do it, Hansel! Take the whole damn tree! Do it!
You're coming with me. Idiot trees.
Such a cute, childlike way to frame him as well, where he's lower in the frame, so we really feel how kind of short he is in reference to the trees around him.
Always remember.
Oh, and we are back to this kind of mix of practical and artificial lighting, as we've got this beautiful orange tungsten candlelight happening in the room, but we feel this heavy, almost neon blue infusing in from outside. The flicker of the fire consistently making it feel trippy, and she is just shrouded in that blue. It's just amazing. And again, we're keeping them all in single shots, so it feels like they all exist in their own little worlds, and let them stare straight into the camera. Real minimalistic, really off-putting.
How'd you know?
Because women often know things they're not supposed to. Don't we, Gretel?
Gretel's not a woman.
And again, we get this idea that Gretel is becoming of age, but Hansel doesn't even see her as that. He still sees her as another kid.
A frog? A pig?
There is that beautiful triangle formation again, and we see that kind of beautiful eye formed with the moon over top. And we're going to feel the moon go through different phases throughout this entire story, always seeing it kind of framed above that triangle. Again, really going with the kind of eye on top of the pyramid feeling. What we know is kind of the eye of providence, which we see on the American dollar. This is all imagery and symbolism that's been around for a really long time, but has a lot of roots in paganistic religions and witchcraft. Oh, you should always follow the creepy kids' laughter in your nightmares. Well, anytime something says don't look at us, it's like a guarantee that a character in the movie, and I, am going to. These are some of our first really active moving shots that we've had in the movie, and every single one of these are doozies.
Don't look at us.
Now you have to. It's like they're daring you to. Do it, Gretel, do it. Would you look? I would totally look. Beautiful mix of lighting and haze there, so we get that beautifully hard fall off between the light and the darkness. And it's a coming-of-age story, so of course we have to have a moment where she gets her period. I could curate an entire horror subgenre of girls getting period and then become magical or gain a sixth sense. And I absolutely love them every single time because it makes this moment seem so much more beautiful. I've unfortunately never found it to be quite so enlightening, but good for them. I love this subgenre.
Were the dreams I was having only the result of too much rich food before bed? Or were they a message? A warning? And was I now missing a chance to listen to myself?
Slow pushing on that shot as we realize there is something there, something underground.
Hey. It'd be wise to leave before outstaying a welcome.
What? Leave?
Yes. And continue on to the foresters like we said we would.
We found work to be done here. You probably noticed the food.
There's something wrong here.
But it's so pleasant.
But tell me what hides behind that pleasantness. There are things here. Bad things.
What bad things?
The abundance, for one.
What's that mean?
It means too much. There's too much, and it isn't right. Where are the animals? From where does she draw milk? From where does she conjure up her endless...
Ooh, don't question the cake. Never question the cake. But super clever here, Gretel, as she's starting to figure out everything. And again, this was a great way to do it so that we could slow roll it over the course of a film so that they just wouldn't walk in and go, oh, creepy woman with cupcake house, that we can slow roll and slowly start thinking about, hey, isn't it weird that there's not sheep around or where all of this stuff comes from?
Mother says I have an eye for good produce.
That won't be necessary.
Plums only keep for 3 days out of season. And that ham is unsalted. It must be going bad.
And yet it isn't.
Oh, clever Gretel here. And again, these practicals in this one are beautiful.
Yes!
So this is an absolutely beautiful shot here because you really feel the parts of the forest that are bright with sunlight and the parts that are not. And this is also deliberate and has to be so meticulously planned out. How you were going to make the forest feel just like night and day simultaneously at the same time. And then have all of this amazing haze and fog. There is so much wafting happening right now off scenes.
Come across an old one, have you? One that's had too much to drink? You'll find another in the cupboard in the hall, towards the back.
So important thing to note here that I didn't notice until I had watched this a couple of times, that it feels like Gretel discovers what she's about to discover, the wall, the false wall, on her own. Like she accidentally happens upon it. But you just realize that the witch just sent her there and specifically told her where to look. And so the witch was really guiding her towards this. The witch is really guiding her towards this ending and this knowledge, wanting her to find it out. But in the meantime, Gretel has no problems just ripping holes in the old lady's wall instead of getting that dish towel. Just rip the holes in there.
When you found it, let me show you something.
Oh, that beautiful, beautiful synth comes in right here.
The thought in your head is go look in the shed. You'll find saws to be sharpened for the bones of the dead. The thought in your head is go look in the shed. You'll find saws to be sharpened for the bones of the dead. What eats with its teeth, but never feels fed.
So that's a fun little riddle. I've always heard it differently. What uses its teeth but never feels fed? I'd always heard the answer was a comb. That was what you'd get like inside bubblegum wrappers or inside poppers. But in this, they're using what uses its teeth but never feels fed is a bone saw, the saws that she is using to chop up the kids.
The air is swirling with abundance. One need only reach out and pluck it. This is your power, to see what is hidden and to take it. Small mind believes only what it can see. Carves out a little square, waits to be taken, never wondering what governs its fate. But we know that we are our fate's own masters, don't we? Those like me and those like you, we commune with the great.
I love that the witch is kind of bringing Gretel in, that it's not about the witch subjugating both of them, that it's about her welcoming Gretel in and making her Gretel part of this. And the baller fact that she is just like, making some baby fat solve right in front of her. Just gonna rub baby fat all over my broom here. So, fun, real fact. It is believed that these solves that, quote, witches of olden times used to use, that they would think let them fly and let them see stuff and commune with the devil, that these solves that they would use actually had all of these psychotropic herbs mixed into them. Things like belladonna and certain amounts of hemlock and other ones, so that what was actually happening is these things were getting absorbed into the skin. So they actually did feel like they were flying. So when they sat on the broom, it actually did feel like they were flying. It did feel like they were seeing things. It did feel like they were having this kind of otherworldly experience inspired by the solve. Solve. I'm not even sure how that's pronounced. It's okay. The gooey stuff that they made from baby's fat. Or in traditional witchcraft, it's usually like more of like a tallow. Beef tallow, not baby fat tallow.
Not tell it what to do.
Tell it?
You've talked to things before. I know you have.
What can it do?
It can do more than just lie there like spilt milk. You decided to wake it up after all.
But how did it?
Think less, my pretty, and no more. Go ahead. It awaits its master.
I do love how important Gretel is in this, that she is given full agency, full knowledge, and full importance from this witch. So dazed Hansel basically starts sharpening his own bone saw.
The bones of the dead.
All of this hazing must have taken hours on set, I can only imagine.
The bones of the dead.
Oh yeah, this is some good salve. Good salve. And I like that this witchcraft in this, it's not traditional evil witch who is only in it to eat kids. That's going to come in later, but so much of this is much more of a naturalistic pagan element of witchcraft, where it is much more about communing with nature and using nature and talking to nature and, you know, hanging out with this tree right here that's bending down to talk to her. That it does have this natural element, that it is not all just black witchcraft and doing evil and Satan, that it does have this very important old-timey, you know, nature was here before us element to it.
Another bite, won't you?
I don't want another bite. Even if it bit me, I wouldn't bite it back.
But it's your favorite, my little champion.
Oh, and the traditional orange kind of golden tungsten light that they've had in this room during dinner time has now turned to almost blood red. So we know something's about to happen because that lighting has shifted.
Food.
What do you do for all day?
She teaches me. Thinks I could save my life. Could make my life.
She's not our mother, you know.
It's true. She isn't. She has much to give. You wouldn't understand. There are many gifts here.
You always say there aren't any gifts in this world. That nothing is given without something taken away. So tell me this. What is she taking? I'm scared now. And I want to go home.
So this has been a really interesting arc because just within about 15 minutes of screen time, we have had this sharp arc of Gretel being the one to say that we need to leave and Hansel being like, no, dude, the cake, to now where Hansel is like, shit's creepy and I want to get out of here. And Gretel's like, no, I'm learning really cool stuff. So this has all happened just within what is effectively our second act. We've had this switch.
Fall quiet, boy, for I shall write my own story.
Gretel.
You want to leave? Let me show you how.
And I love that they keep bringing up this most beautiful child, because it really does function like a fairy tale within a fairy tale, like a meta degree. And they keep talking about it as a fairy tale. So they exist in a world where fairy tales are a thing, but they're actually in a fairy tale. So it's a really cool inclusion to kind of bring that in as the entrance to the story. And then, of course, it's going to become a reality towards the end. Oh, that red light is divine. I love that that looked and sounded like Mandy, but it's actually a fairy tale. That is how you make a damn good fairy tale.
Surely that had only been a nightmare. The desire to be rid of him was very real, but to send him off alone into the night, that could never be true.
Hansel. So when Hansel left, we had this amazing red light, and now we're bathed in blue. Again, getting those color oppositions and really, but now that she's stepping out, we're seeing the red practicals behind her again.
He's out sulking.
And I love now that Hansel is gone, this house looks enormous. Like, the house feels so much bigger with him gone. This is the most spacious shot we have seen so far. The sunlight is streaming in. It just looks lovely.
Into your boot. You've taken him on as a burden. But last night you shrugged it off.
Did I?
Didn't you? You're not his mother. And still, you don't remember the last time you couldn't be sure where your little boy could be.
He shouldn't be off at his own.
Maybe not. But you definitely should be.
Oh, there's that beautiful pyramid. We're seeing the phase of the moon. It's now lined up with the pyramid, which basically means shit's about to go down.
To be up with the sun to search for my brother.
An excellent plan.
But I do fear a restless night ahead. Might you prepare for me something to help me sleep?
I'll fix you a sleeper. She always does the trick. You sleep like a baby. Like a baby who's just got into her mother's sleepers.
Clever Gretel again, thinking ahead, making the witch think that she is totally knocked out. That naked queen controlling the whole board.
A leaf or a twig this way or that. You get a very different mixture. A soup of nightmares.
Soup of Nightmares is quite hardcore. Made sure to let the witch see her drink it, so she could go puke it up. Head into that secret door at the back of the closet that we're going to peel away. Beautiful practicals here, slow moving shot. This is so taking its time because the secret door at the back of the cabinet leads to one hell of a beautiful staircase set here. This is just such beautiful minimalistic set design, how she is slowly ascending with this practical light in between these big, just plain whitish blue walls. And you never really even see the stairs that she's descending at this point. She's just slowly lowering.
Come on now. There's no place for you. Come now and look at me.
Hansel has gone full Blair Witch here, just staring into the back corner in a daze. Bloodstains all around the walls and floors, subtle nod to what's about to happen here against those crazy white walls. And the witch was just poured out of a damn pipe. The sound design here. If you're dumping a big old bucket of guts out onto a table, you gotta have good sound design for this. And this is just absolutely brutally squishy. Same here. It's one thing if you're just opening up a giant vat of disembodied kid arms. Oh, got one. But to have it scream and you actually hear the thousands of screaming kids over top of it is brilliant. We haven't had a lot of gore in this movie up to this point, so just kind of shoving it all in one scene. We get all the guts right here. And this is just fucking badass. So it morphs into the food that they've been eating. Totally gross, that's what we've been eating. But if you think about it, it's kind of like recycling where they're feeding the kids to eat the kids, but then they're feeding the parts of the kids back to the other kids. So it's cyclical in a really gross way.
It didn't matter anymore if I dreamt it or really lived it. The horror of what I'd seen under the house was proof of what I heard.
Amazing transition to go from that to her staring at the food that it produces. And somehow it suddenly looks far less appetizing. Oh, this hallway shot. Again, like TARDIS house, this house looks huge now without Hansel there. And this hallway shot in general is just absolutely gorgeous.
It resulted in my sleeping draft, I'm sure. You saw there's fresh milk.
I saw. Yum.
Any sign about it or runaway?
No, none.
Well, I'll keep an nose in anyhow.
You're going somewhere.
It's not regular that nature calls out to me, but when she does, I try to answer. Mind a kettle, would you? Fix me a cup of tea for when I'm back, that'd be nice. And leave the food out. Maybe I want to buy something later.
That really subtle kind of thumping, clicking in here that lets us know that we're amping up, we're getting moving forward. This is getting into the climax. And we now have connected the old witch and the young witch together. You know, the black fingertips are never really explained on screen why that is. We're just assuming in this story that that's what kind of represents witchcraft, because we're going to see it happen again later on, that somehow is just what happens to you when you take on witchcraft. But it is just such a small yet incredibly effective choice in this that I have not seen used to portray witches and other things.
I've been thinking, maybe it's for the best that Hansel isn't with us.
Isn't?
He'll soon come to fear you, as all men should if they're smart.
So again, by keeping them in single shots, we don't really ever connect them together. We feel this massive space between them. The table feels massive here, and the singles are really driving that they are in two separate worlds. And then when we go to this, that table looks huge. There is so much distance between them.
With all that you're showing me, will I one day be very powerful?
You will be.
Will I have mastery and dominion over everything?
Nearly everything. We must accept our weaknesses.
Have you one of vulnerability?
Only that which has taken a part of me. Only that which has taken a part of you. And to you it will be a poison. And so you must consume it, lest it consume you first.
Consume poison?
How else will one develop an...
Kind of good life advice from an evil witch here, y'all. You gotta face and embrace your weakness if you're gonna be the queen witch here, folks.
Nothing tastes as sweet.
Such an amazing visual, because now we have confirmation that it was not a dream, that she was kind of turning children into this food-like thing that looked like food and then feeding it to everyone else and her. And we now have full confirmation that she's been eating kids.
What did you do with my brother?
I'm only moving him out of your way.
He's all I have in this world.
Say that again and I will turn your tongue into a flower. To remind you how pretty and dumb, temporary you've chosen to be. Or you may follow the path that I've left for you.
Do whatever you want with me, but only if you free him.
I can never do that.
But why not?
Because that little boy...
Oh, snap, and we have now figured out exactly what the witch is asking her to do. She is not only saying you have to face and embrace your fear, you have to eat it. So she is asking Gretel to eat her own brother. The ever-loving hell, this just got wild. So this is a hell of a twist on the original mythos where it was all about the witch eating Hansel. Instead, it's asking Gretel to eat Hansel.
You standing at the threshold of your own experience, with everything ahead of you.
And I was kind of into like her witchcraft method, like, you know, the cool salve that lets you talk to trees and everything, up to the you have to eat your own brother point. This is kind of where I don't necessarily want to be a witch anymore.
A nice balance. I admire the application. But more than anything, it leaves me curious as to why. Why you would try to put me to sleep when there's so much to be done.
I won't do what you want me to do. I'm nothing like you.
We're made from the same matter. The same filth. Otherwise, how would you know my story without me having to tell it to you?
Your story?
We were given the same gift, the same magic. Just as she was. With her little pink cap.
How do you know my story?
And moving into one of our final flashbacks of the movie, getting the witch's story within a story. Back to our creepy villagers from the beginning.
Most beautiful child. And everyone could see that. But on the inside.
And we got the ring connection there, connecting the young version of her to the older crone version of her. Sweet hat.
I hated her. And I was her mother. Because from me, she took everything. And would have destroyed me, too, if I didn't get rid of her.
Common theme of fairy tales, that which seems the most beautiful is oftentimes the most evil. We see it in Snow White with the stepmother. And in general, a lot of times that which is the most beautiful is the most evil.
In my thoughts, in my dreams, attached to me like my shadow, promising me a taste of the powers that she had. All that was required was for me to be brave and to trust the darkness. And I was, and I did. And like she had done, I rid myself of all other attachments. I cleared my plate. I ate my children. So hungry was I to realize my own powers, I hardly even chewed. I assumed a disguise of old age to make myself seem kind and weak. I built for us a house, one with a proper kitchen and a dining room.
Brutal. Brutal. She ate her kids, swallowed her own poison. And now we have woken up in the room at the bottom of the stairs behind the cupboard, which is the, quote, proper dining room.
A darling William and a precious Elizabeth. A Harry and a Sarah. A Paul, a Kate. And now, just for you.
She has a hell of a sales pitch convincing others to eat their loved ones. I'm curious if this has ever worked, because she clearly has got this very theatrically prepared.
Such a sweet boy. Sweet and plump and fair.
Where is he? Where is my brother?
So stay a while, won't you? Who knows, you might even enjoy it. I only hope you're hungry.
And so whereas we traditionally had an oven that she was trying to cook Hansel in, and then she ends up getting shoved into it, this is a far more visually cinematic way to go about it, where we have this massive kind of pyre with a cage above it.
Go and kiss your sister good night.
Again, those black fingers, just so visually striking here.
Brother, hear me. I know you're in there. I'm going to get you out. Even though you are blinded, you'll see my face again. That is my forever promise to you.
That's enough. Now up.
Very cool how it's transitioning between the old crone voice and the younger voice here.
There's a good boy.
So slow, so torturous, making sure that we get every moment of this. What a world! That is a oh shit! The what a world was like an exact quote from Wizard of Oz before the witch dies, and then Gretel did her super clever thing where we realize she is covered in salve and she is gonna burn the witch up. Love the What a World callback line to other fairy tale versions of witches. Oz's version of shoving the witch in the oven, we break her head off. Fuck yes. And burn her alive. Oh shit, that is some powerful salve. And so our lead antagonist, the witch, dead, we now wake up into what is traditionally our denouement, where we find out kind of how the characters are going to ride off into the sunset together. But we get an interesting mix here.
Just as long as I got a voice in it.
But what about her?
She doesn't live here anymore.
Gretel, you're scared. What of? Of the world?
No. Only of myself.
Oh, damn. Gretel's gonna be a witch. Hell yeah. Somebody's gotta stick around and take care of the cat. Like, they both just can't bail out. I mean, there's a cat there.
Part of myself that you have not taken, but that I have given to you gladly. It will go with you when you leave.
When I leave? Without you?
Yes. The single story that we shared now splits in two. And we take forking paths. Yours will lead you to what you need to find. Mine will carry me up. I've told him to take good care of you. He'll see to it that you arrive safely.
Gretel, you'll see my face again. But anyway, where is he taking me?
And we end with the confused Hansel being let off on a horse. But that's okay, because Gretel has her shit together. I love this because it ends with Gretel still having power and the ability to really explore what her true power is.
I'll be standing in it, just as he shouldn't stand in mine. I could see she was right about that, at least. Let him find his own story and his own courage to live it. Just as I now go on to live mine. I have my own power.
I love that we are really kind of establishing her as a good white witch here as she's back to that white dress that she was wearing at the very beginning. That she really is kind of trying to, repel the darkness, not embrace it. But then we're going to get a note here in just a bit that says that there is no way she can avoid it. Oh, but first she gets to free all of the eaten children's spirits.
I looked, and I saw, and I understood. The captor now gone, and her fires all put out.
It's a gorgeous overhead.
They were free to go.
Keeping them all very innocent and white, and her in stark white in the middle.
And I was free. To go and never look back. Or stay to build something new on top of everything that had been destroyed. I knew my path would reveal itself, and that all was required from me was to be brave, and to trust myself.
Oh, and there it is. And we realize that no matter how much of a good witch Gretel wants to be, it's just not possible, that there's always going to have to exist this darkness in what she's doing. But I absolutely love that this ends with a level of power and that she is going to go for it, even if there are bad times with it, even if there is an element of evil, that Gretel has full agency and ends this film on top. Hell yes. If you're going to do an update on a fairy tale, this is how you do it. Well done, Oz Perkins. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me throughout this for one of my favorite retellings of a fairy tale that has come out within the last couple of decades. Again, my name is Rebekah McKendry. You can find me on the Colors of the Dark podcast, as well as over at Fangoria, where you'll see occasional articles and stuff like that. So thank you all so much for tuning in.